I wanted to do a quick video on what it's been like for me to interact with anyone younger than me. It's strange. Like, I try not to think of myself as very old. I'm only 34. But I feel like there's a very clear distinction or a very clear contrast between me or my generation and whatever generation is coming up behind me. Because there's a level of non-functional uh, social anxiety, immaturity, and angst that my generation has more shame about, I would say. And I'm sorry to put it in those terms. But it's like we're more embarrassed to kind of hang our mental illness on our sleeve the way that people in younger generations do. Like they do that thing where they go, well, I have ADD, what do you have? Well, I have bipolar disorder, what do you have? And they just kind of like dish about it like it's no big deal. And it's like they never get help for it because I believe that they integrate it into their individuality and that they see it like if they lose their mentally ill component that they'll no longer be them or recognizably them. And so they kind of carry on well beyond when it would have been normal for someone in my age group to act a certain way. You know, it's tough for me to talk about without young people just instantly getting defensive and attacking me like I am a geezer who doesn't understand their mode of living. And that's probably true. And I cop to that. That I kind of look at them like Jane Goodall. And I'm like, I'm just trying to fit in. I'm just trying to understand your ways. Like, I don't, don't yell at me is a big thing. But that's a big problem, is that they're so quick to offend. They're so sensitive. There's like this hypersensitivity. And it's best summarized by an old, what would you call it? It's not a limerick. But it goes, they attempt to carpet the entire world instead of putting on slippers for themselves. It's not how it goes, but that's the gist. You try to put down carpet for the whole world and make the whole world comfy instead of just putting on your own slippers, you know, or your own comfy suit. Like, you don't toughen up for the world. You try to make everyone adapt to you. You try to change how everyone acts and speaks around you so that you're comfortable. And there's like this whole comfort addicted thing. And for someone with chronic pain that's lived as long with it like I do, I just don't understand comfort addiction. It's like a form of schizophrenia to me, where you're trying to impose your delusion on the world. You're trying to say like, well, this is how I think the world should be based on a very isolated, childlike worldview. And then you kind of go out there and bump off of people trying to make them act like that delusion, and you cut people off. They're very quick to do that. They're a very vindictive, fickle, feckless generation where they just act impulsively all the time. They act based on instant gratification, and they don't want to feel any consequences for their actions or any long-term fallout. Like, they don't want to think about how they're going to be broke after they treat themselves. They just want to think that like that little boost they got the moment that they spent the money is going to like carry on somehow. And you're supposed to grow up and realize that it doesn't carry on and that it didn't make you happy. And there's this weird thing in this generation with just kind of like staying oblivious and like closing your eyes, putting on horse blinders and pretending it's okay to just cut this really immature swath through the world, and not like this wake in an otherwise still lake. And you don't care about that wake, and you don't care about all the people you're tossing over, all this drama and stuff. It's just like when you act like a teenager well into your 20s, you're still creating all this toxic drama around people. And like, it's, you know, it's, I know, like I said, like I often feel old when I probably shouldn't feel old, but I can definitely tell that there's a people younger than me have a problem socializing. They have this problem with what Louis C.K. said, being a person, where he's like, they can't interact in a group of people without getting anxious. And they have to look at their phones, they have to isolate again, and they have to go back into a bubble. And he's like, they go into that bubble and they go to a very nasty, toxic place. You know, they kind of go to their pure id and they indulge that id and then pat themselves on the back for that id and to comfort themselves that it's all going to be fine, they're not a bad person. And it's like all of that is in their head. All of that is imaginary. All of that is like this self-reinforcement and this self-enabling thing. And meanwhile, the rest of the world is just kind of watching them tap their phone while they pretend that they're in a spacesuit. And you can probably tell from my other work that I believe very strongly that we're going to have to integrate as a species because of even if there isn't some sort of major calamity, we've got a lot of problems that it's going to take the entire species to fix. Stuff like global hunger, climate change, cancer, pandemic. Like, these are things that the entire species is going to have to put their heads together to take care of. And if we're all still bickering about like, well, my issues and I'm so sensitive and, I need to change the world so I'm comfortable. If we're still on that level, then we're not going to get anywhere. And that terrifies me. It terrifies me that, the table with Dr. Strangelove with all the top minds is going to be like what the kiddie table used to be.